It was a sad and somber day at the cemetery as friends and family gathered to say goodbye to their beloved Mary. Mary had been a kind and generous woman, loved by all who knew her, and her passing had left a hole in the hearts of those she left behind. But as they stood around the grave, preparing to lower the coffin into the ground, something strange and unexpected happened. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like and share this video with your friends. It might brighten their day and inspire them to do good. Also keep watching because an important lesson awaits at the end of the video. As the coffin touched the bottom of the grave, it seemed to bounce back up, as if it were being kicked out by an unseen force. The mourners gasped in shock as the coffin flew out of the grave and landed a few feet away, its lid still sealed shut. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. They had never heard of anything like this happening before, and they had no idea what could be causing it. The mourners were confused and worried, not knowing what to do or where to turn. They tried to bury the coffin again, but no matter how hard they tried, it kept flying out of the ground and landing a few feet away. They were starting to panic, not wanting to leave Mary's coffin above ground, exposed to the elements and the animals. Just when they were about to give up hope, a gravekeeper approached and offered to help. He had an idea of what might be causing the problem, and he promised to fix it. The gravekeeper examined the grave and the coffin, trying to figure out what was causing the problem. He noticed that the ground was uneven and that there was a large rock jutting out from the soil. He suspected that the rock was causing the coffin to bounce back up whenever it touched the bottom of the grave. The gravekeeper apologized for the oversight and explained that the rock should have been removed before the coffin was lowered into the grave. He promised to fix the problem and asked the mourners to wait while he retrieved some tools from his truck. As the gravekeeper worked, the mourners stood by nervously, wondering if he would be able to solve the problem. They were worried that they would have to leave Mary's coffin above ground, and they didn't want to think about the consequences of that. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the gravekeeper called the mourners over and showed them that he had removed the rock and leveled the ground. He assured them that the coffin would stay in the ground this time, and he asked them to try lowering it again. The mourners hesitated at first, not wanting to risk another failure. But they knew they had no other choice, and so they took a deep breath and grabbed the ropes. With a sense of determination and hope, they began to lower the coffin into the ground once again. As the mourners lowered the coffin into the ground, they held their breath, hoping and praying that it would stay put this time. To their relief, the coffin touched the bottom of the grave and remained there, as if it were finally at rest. They let out a sigh of relief and hugged each other, grateful that the nightmare was over. But just when they thought everything was going to be okay, they heard a strange noise coming from inside the coffin. It sounded like someone was knocking, and it was getting louder and more urgent. The mourners were startled and confused, not knowing what to do. They'd wondered if they had made a mistake, if there was something wrong with Mary's body, or if there was something else going on that they didn't understand. The gravekeeper, who had been watching from a distance, approached the mourners and asked if everything was okay. They explained what had happened, and the gravekeeper listened carefully. He told them not to worry, that it was probably just a natural reaction of the body to the burial process. He said that it was normal for gas to build up in the intestines and that the sound they were hearing was probably just the gas escaping. The mourners were relieved to hear this explanation, and they thanked the gravekeeper for his help and guidance. They knew that they could always count on him to provide them with the information and support they needed. But even as they left the cemetery, they couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, that there was something deeper and more sinister going on. And so, with a sense of curiosity and determination, they vowed to find out the truth, no matter how hard or strange it might be. As the mourners left the cemetery and headed back to their homes, they couldn't stop thinking about the strange noise coming from inside the coffin. They kept wondering if there was more to the story, if there was something deeper and more sinister going on. They knew that the gravekeeper had explained it away as gas escaping from the body, but they couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it than that. As they drove home, they discussed their options and decided to do some research on their own. They knew they couldn't just let the matter rest, not when they had a feeling that something was off. They had to find out the truth, no matter how hard or strange it might be. They spent the next few days poring over books, articles, and online resources, trying to find out more about the strange phenomenon they had witnessed at the cemetery. They learned about different burial customs and traditions, about natural decomposition, and the gases that are produced as a result, about graves that had been disturbed by animals or vandals. But no matter how much they read, they couldn't find a single case that matched what had happened to Mary's grave. As the days turned into weeks, the mourners began to lose hope. They were starting to think that they would never find out the truth, that they would always be haunted by the strange and unsettling events at the cemetery. But just when they were about to give up, they stumbled upon a clue that changed everything. As the mourners continued their research, they came across a mention of a rare and ancient burial custom that involved a series of rituals and spells to prevent the dead from rising from the grave. According to the legend, the rituals were used to protect the living from the undead, to ensure that the dead stayed in their graves and did not return to haunt the living. As the mourners continued their research, they couldn't find any evidence to support the theory that Mary had been cursed or that there was anything supernatural going on. They realized that they had been grasping at straws, trying to find an explanation for the strange and unsettling events at the cemetery. They were disappointed and frustrated, feeling like they had hit a dead end. Just when they were about to give up, they received a call from the Gravekeeper. He had been thinking about their case and had an idea of what might be causing the problem. He explained that the ground at the cemetery was prone to shifting, and that it was possible that the coffin had been resting on top of a pocket of air when it was lowered into the ground. This would have caused the coffin to bounce back up when it touched the bottom of the grave. The mourners were relieved to hear this explanation, and they thanked the Gravekeeper for his help and guidance. They realized that they had been looking for a supernatural explanation when the answer was much more mundane and simple. They were grateful to the Gravekeeper for helping them see the truth, and they vowed to never let their imagination and emotions get the best of them again. With the mystery solved and the problem fixed, the mourners were finally able to lay Mary to rest. As the coffin was lowered into the ground, they felt a sense of peace and closure. They knew that Mary was finally at rest, and they left the cemetery with a renewed appreciation for the importance of facts and evidence.